Okay, so we started putting the vinyl up against there, and what we did was used adhesive spray glue that I showed you earlier in the video to put it up and stretched it across. And you can see here where the furring strips are. Now all we're doing is spray gluing it to that and letting it hang down. We're doing one beam at a time, or one furring strip. So we did this furring strip, then we'll come back, we'll do this one, we'll glue it, we'll let it dry. It only takes about 10 minutes for it to dry. So you want to get it good and tacky before you put it up there. You can see here on the edge, I stapled it where the seam is going to be. There will be a trim piece that goes over that. So I'm not too worried about it. We're trying not to use any staples in the middle. You can see I've got a couple of pulls here. Not terrible for an amateur, but we'll figure out if that's going to stay tight or if I need to put some additional trim pieces up there. We will be symmetrical in that there will be a trim piece over this one, which means right about here where that wrinkle is down there, there'll be another trim piece coming up, and then we'll tuck it in behind that wall. And we pulled the paneling off a little bit so we can tuck it in, and then the edges will also get tucked in behind the paneling, hopefully making a nice fit. It'll be a little tight. We're checking that out here where we're starting to realize it's going to be really close there as to whether or not the paneling will cover that in all areas. So you may have to think about some trim pieces for that. But anyway, this is definitely a two-person job. What we did to get it started on the very first one was put some support stretches right across here to help and roll it up the vinyl and let it rest on that to carry the weight while we glued and set that first one to keep it in a straight line. We did chalk line it. You can see the chalk line is still there just to make sure we had a straight edge going across for the second one to line up. And it took about an hour. We're doing this over my lunch break today, so real quick for one roll was about an hour. You may be faster than we were. I had two people helping, me and my daughter were doing this. So yeah, that's where we're at. Definitely use some good quality adhesive spray, let it get tacky, then put the vinyl up. All right, we'll come back after we get the second piece up and running. Hopefully we'll get to that later today. All right, you can see here we've got our first pieces of paneling in. We'll have to put the trim piece up against the top of that yet. We just tucked the vinyl behind that wall. If you come over here, you can see where it's hanging down. So what we'll do, like right in here, is this will get stapled so that it then stays tight as it gets pushed up against with the paneling, and then trim will cover that. The other thing I wanted to show you is this window here. So we've got some screws. It's a star screw here. So I've taken most of this out. I'm going to pop this out so that the paneling will go behind this piece and give us a nice finished look. It just lifts right out. As you can see, it's already loose right there. So we'll pull that out, we'll cut this hole, and then we'll put the paneling up, and we'll put this back in, which should give us a finished look around this. And again, up here it's glue, and down here it's glue and screw. So that's the big challenge will be this bend that we've got to make right here. I don't know if you can see it in the video or not, but it's a pretty good little bend, so we'll have to flex this a little bit and see how much that will give. But anyway, so we're going to cut that piece. Hopefully we're going to do this all in one piece from this edge of the panel down the side here past the window over to our alligator vinyl, and then we'll trim that out as well. Other things, I'm getting ready to pull out this trim. I just wanted to point out, so this is all loose, but before I even started anything, you can see I've got my Broncos duct tape here on the outside just holding the window in. It is caulked on the outside, which should hold it, but just didn't want to take a chance of having to buy a new window and put it in just because I was trying to get some finished trim here. So I would highly recommend just take some safety precautions on that glass. So we cut the panel using table saw over here, and slid that across, cut the rough dimensions on the outside, and then measured the window. And so remember, this is the flange that goes on the window in the trailer. There's a little bit of a gap here. So we did was measure it out, and then use this as a pattern, and then just slid it down a little bit, so we're cutting or measuring on the inside, and slid it up. That way we can trace that circle. And you can see here I cut on the inside of the lines. Doesn't have to be perfect, because remember, we've got a little bit of a flange here to cover it. And then before I go into the trailer, just setting it on here to test fit it so that we know it's going to be the right size for the window. And then when we slide the panel in, we'll just make sure the window is lined up. So we'll probably screw this in to the other side of the window first, and then make sure we're all lined up there. And if need be, we'll add a little white caulk around that side, but it looks like it's going to fit pretty well there. Okay, so we're ready to start putting the trim pieces in against the paneling and our alligator vinyl. And just so you guys see how I'm doing this, what I did was cut some boards here to measure and then glued the alligator vinyl to the board and then on the back. And then on the back we're going to use some of the same spray here we used to hold the vinyl to it, as well as some liquid nail in the corners. Again, remember, this isn't doing any kind of support. We just want to make sure it adheres to the paneling and will stick. So it'll give us a nice finished look when it's done. There's one already that just kind of wraps it up so it looks like it's done. You don't see this rough edge like you do over there. All right, so we'll put all this on and then we'll finish trimming out the refrigerator and the microwave area as well. All right, we've got all the paneling, everything is in. Last thing to do is just to wait for that glue to dry on the paneling where we put the trim pieces on. As I mentioned before, it's glued to the paneling, so it's not doing any support. It's simply covering up those edges to make it look a little bit nicer. So that's what we had a little bit of extra alligator vinyl, so we closed off that top piece to make that match. And we also came over here to where the fridge and microwave are and trimmed it out with the alligator here in the front too. That's just a mini fridge like you'd find in a college dorm or an office. Had an old microwave, so we stuck that in. Everything is plugged into the back. But this ought to give us enough for some cool water, a little bit of food, and ability to microwave breakfast or lunch at a show. So we just got to put the saddle rack back in, which goes right there, and then throw the mattress on, which we'll probably do tomorrow. I think I'm going to give this 24 hours for the glue to really set up hard, and then we'll finish it out and turn on all the lights. I did put an LED light in here, just so you know. That LED light, it's about 16 bucks at Home Depot. You don't change the light bulb. It's supposed to last for 45 years, but there's no filament to vibrate or change. And then this is just plastic right here, so even if it gets hit, we're not having broken glass on the floor. So that's it for the trailer. We did the crown molding. We tucked the extra ceiling vinyl in on the side there, and probably should have painted the crown molding white or gray to blend in, but you know, it's done. So not perfect, but certainly different than what it was before, and pretty happy with it. I think it'll work as a weekender, and definitely with the 110 power for shore power would be great. And we'll throw that mattress in there and make a bed and throw some pillows, and we're all done. All right, folks, good luck if you decide to do this on your own. I hope this video helped out.